Hi, my name is Seamus Collins, and today I would like to briefly talk to you about planned risk response process. So far, we would have identified all the risks on the project in that first process. Then we would have done qualitative and quantitative analysis. So we would have looked at their probability and impact. We would have maybe done some Monte Carlo analysis, some decision trees, etc. And we'd have worked out really at this point which are the biggest risks we need to deal with on the project. Now, what we need to do in this process of planned risk response is how are we going to deal with them? What are the best actions to take for each individual risk and the project risk overall? So, and we need to get agreement really with the other stakeholders as to what is the right response to take. So when we think about it, maybe there are four options we should look at here. And the first one possibly is, can we avoid this risk? Now, remember, risk can be positive or negative, but if we look at the negative ones first, avoid. Can we do something maybe to change the scope? Can we relax that project objective that's causing us difficulty? And maybe if we look at it very simply, I could say, if there's a risk that I could crash a car, maybe I can take the bus. So there's no risk then, I can avoid it. The second option maybe I should think about though is, can we transfer this? And transfer is maybe very often I think of insurance when I think about this. If I go back to my car example, there is still the possibility that I could crash the car. But if I have insurance, probably someone else is taking the financial hit. I still am taking the physical hit, however. So we've got to think about outsourcing the risk. But outsourcing or transferring that risk, you may have the problem of secondary risk in that this could bring about some other problem for us. The next option is to mitigate, and many of us are familiar with this term, but we need to think about mitigating the probability or the impact. We scored the risk based on probability and impact. Now what can we do with it on either front? It's preferable, obviously, to mitigate the probability. Can we reduce this risk probability to an acceptable level? So if I go back again to my car example, I could be thinking, okay, how could I reduce the probability of crashing? Well, I could drive slowly. I could drive at a quiet time of the day. I shouldn't drink before I drive. Maybe this is an option. Could I reduce the impact? How do I mitigate the impact? I could wear a safety belt. I could wear a helmet in a car. Okay? Now, again, you might laugh at some of the options, but when we are trying to mitigate something, we should allow the team to generate ideas because we need to pick the one that's most appropriate. And very often, something that we think initially may not be appropriate, may be the best mitigation of all. The last option is to accept. Can we accept the risk? Now, we sometimes accept the risk where we think, hang on, we can't do anything about this one in terms of mitigation, we can't outsource it in terms of transference, and we can't avoid it. So we may think about just accepting it. If it happens, it happens. That's the first option, passive acceptance. We're really saying here, we'll deal with it if it happens. Now that can be head in the sand type behavior, and your boss may not be comfortable or your stakeholders may not be comfortable with that approach. The other option though is active acceptance. Active acceptance is where we bring in place and put in place a contingency plan. Now this contingency plan is going to cost us money, but we also need, some people call this plan B. Plan B, what are we going to do if this happens? But also, as well as identifying the plan B, we need to understand what is the trigger. What is that warning point that we go, when will we implement the contingency? When will we know is the right time to do this? Because if we don't know when to implement it, sometimes we can miss that opportunity and the contingency is of no use. Okay? So in this opening discussion about risk, I'm telling you, you can avoid it, you can transfer it, you can mitigate the probability or the impact, or you could just accept it. But if you're accepting it, I would suggest you have active acceptance. You have a contingency plan. Now we're going to put owners, due dates, secondary risk, residual risk, and understand this completely as we discuss this topic more. We also need to discuss what are we going to do with the positive risks or opportunities on this project. Thank you.